what if I told you there's a certain amount of money, a specific number, that can completely change the game for you? An amount that could finally shut down those late night stress sessions and give you a totally new lease on life. And no, it's not $1 million, it's not even 100,000. But hitting this one milestone, well, it can be the beginning of everything. Let's get into it. Okay, picture this. It's 3 a.m. You're just staring at the ceiling, wide awake. And your mind is just playing this highlight reel of every single thing that could go wrong with your money. The car breaks down, the dog gets sick, you get that dreaded email from your boss. It's just this feeling of pure, uncut dread. Yeah, if that feeling rings a bell, I promise you, you are not the only one. This kind of constant, low-grade financial stress is just a daily reality for millions and millions of people. Let's actually give this a name. We can call it the midnight money worries. And it really comes from one single place, not having a financial safety net. See, when you're living like this, your whole life becomes a series of really stressful math problems. You're mentally adding up your groceries in the aisle just to avoid that awful moment at the checkout. You're dodging texts from friends asking you to go out because you just can't swing it. Every single choice gets filtered through this lens of, I can't afford it. What this does is it forces you to constantly play what we can call financial defense. You're not thinking about the future, you're not planning, you're just trying to block the next hit, just reacting to one problem after another to survive today. And check this out, this one simple comparison, it says it all. Without savings, that little check engine light comes on and it can send you into a full-blown panic. I mean, how am I going to pay for this? Am I going to have to borrow money? But with a savings buffer, that exact same problem is just an annoyance, a hassle. The problem is identical, but your ability to handle it is a world away. So this brings us to a really specific number that for a lot of people marks a massive, massive turning point. We're going to call it the $10,000 shift. But why? What is so magical about $10,000? It's not like you hit that number and suddenly start buying fancy cars. Actually, most people who get there don't really change their spending habits at all. The real power of this number, it's something way, way deeper. It all comes down to what's called the emergency fund effect. And what that means is that the biggest reward you get from that savings isn't even financial, it's psychological. It is the incredible peace of mind that comes from simply knowing you can handle it if a crisis hits. That feeling of security, that's the real prize. And listen, this isn't just some vague feel-good thing. It has real, measurable effects on your brain and your body. Financial security is proven to lower cortisol. That's your main stress hormone. And that leads to better sleep, more confidence during the day, and way less decision fatigue because you're not constantly sweating the small stuff. It even makes your relationships better, because let's be honest, money stress is a huge cause of fights. But it gets even better, because once you've built that foundation, that safety net, something truly incredible starts to happen. Your entire mindset becomes to shift away from just protecting yourself and toward actively looking for opportunities to grow. And here's why $10,000 is such a potent number. Just look at what it covers. It's enough to handle the vast majority of those common financial curveballs. Most car repairs, a surprise medical bill, even covering your basic expenses for a few months if you lose your job. It all pretty much falls within that range. That 10 grand makes you almost immune to the kind of stuff that completely derails most people. And once you're safe, you can finally start playing offense. This is what we call the launchpad effect. With your foundation totally secure, you can now take a smart, calculated risk. Maybe you spend $2,000 on a certification course that could boost your yearly salary by 10 grand. See, without that foundation, spending that 2 grand is impossible. With it, it's a no-brainer investment in yourself.
But honestly, the biggest transformation of all isn't about paying for emergencies or making investments. It's about who you become along the way. It's about building the identity of a saver.
And this quote right here, this really hits the nail on the head. The real work isn't just the mechanical act of moving money into an account. It is the deep, internal shift where you start to see yourself as someone who is in control, someone who plans, someone who has their act together. That journey starts out so tough, right? Saving that very first $1,000 can feel absolutely brutal because you're fighting years of old habits. But as you build that momentum, as that saver identity starts to click into place, the whole process gets easier. It becomes less about forcing yourself and more about just being who you are. So what does this new life actually look like day to day? Once you have this foundation, how does your behavior really change? What you've really bought yourself is breathing room. And when you're not constantly gasping for financial air, you can finally think clearly. You can take the time to shop for better insurance, to optimize your bills, to make smart, strategic moves instead of just putting out the next fire.
And this is where your entire perspective on spending just flips on its head. A $50 networking event might seem like a total luxury when you're broke. You just see the cost. I can't afford that. But with a safety net, you see the potential investment. Could this $50 lead to a contact that gets me a job worth thousands more? You go from a scarcity mindset to an opportunity mindset.
So you see, in the end, the $10,000, it's just a number. It's a symbol. The real permanent value is in the person you had to become to save it. That identity, that's what's going to build you real wealth and security for the rest of your life. So, I'll leave you with this final thought. If you weren't constantly stressed about money, if you had that financial breathing room, what would you have the courage and the energy to go out and do? What could you really achieve?